One of the most popular game fish inshore in Florida is the speckled trout, and spring is a great time to target these fish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you my tips on where to go, what to throw, and what gear to use to catch springtime speckled trout.
That's a nice trout. Top water too.
What's going on, everyone? So my name is Brent Shermer, and welcome to my series I like to call Just the Tips, where I like to give you my strategies on how to catch different species of fish around here in Florida. So whether you're new to fishing or you've been fishing your whole life, I believe it is beneficial to try and learn from other people to try and make yourself a more well-rounded fisherman. So the tips I'm about to share are what worked for me here in Tampa, and I know that different places use different strategies. So what I want you guys to do is, if you guys use a different strategy or different tips that you want to give, please leave a comment down below on what that is so we can all learn together and become more well-rounded fishermen. So just like my other Just the Tips videos, I'm going to be breaking this down into 3 different parts, where I'll be talking about where you should be fishing, the different baits you should be using, and what tackle you should be using to catch these fish. Like I've said in the past, the most important part in trying to catch any species of fish is understanding where you should be targeting these fish. So here in Florida, especially in Tampa Bay, you can catch speckled trout year-round. It's kind of well known that winter is the best time to catch like a lot of big speckled trout, but there's still plenty of fish to be caught in the spring. The #1 place you're gonna find speckled trout is on grass flats. So they really like the grass flats because 1, they can kind of camouflage and lay down in the grass and ambush their prey that way. And 2, there is an abundance of prey, whether it's little shrimps, different crustaceans, or bait fish. So what I like to look for is a solid grass flat, or one that's got some like sand, like spots or some potholes, because these trout like to sit at the edge of these pothole areas and wait for a prey or some bait fish to swim over this area that's open, and then it's easy pickings for them to just swim out and pick up that bait. Another great area to try and target speckled trout is on the outside of oyster beds. For the same reason as when I was talking about the redfish, there's just an abundance of different crustaceans and bait fish that come there, especially on high tides. Another great area is along like jetties or bridges or docks or seawalls or anything. They like to hang on the structure, and they can use that as kind of cover for when they're ambushing or from predators, and then they can also use it because it attracts a different bait fish and crustaceans and everything. One area that's very underrated, especially around here where I live, is fishing dock lights at night. These trout cover dock lights and pick off any shrimp or bait fish that swims over. And if you can go out at night and find some dock lights, long areas of grass flats or anything, you can find at least 20 trout just stacked up on these lights. It's crazy. So one tip that I have that I didn't really know where to throw it in this video, but I'm gonna throw it in here. Trout like to swim around in schools of pretty much the same size fish. So if you get to an area and you start catching fish and they're all pretty small, you're pretty much gonna only catch small fish if you stay in that area. But if you can move and find an area that's got some big fish, you could probably catch a couple of these big fish in that area. All right, so now that I covered where you should be fishing, it's time to cover the different baits that you should be using. So all the different baits, rigs, and tackle that I'll be talking about in this video will all be listed down below if you wanna pick some up. Speckled trout are a very aggressive species. They will bite a bait that's much bigger than you would expect that they would go after. They're also willing to bite a wide variety of baits, including different live baits, artificials, and flies. As far as live bait, shrimp and greenbacks are your best options. I prefer using shrimp when I'm using live bait. You do get more bycatch, you get some pinfish pecking at it, you get some pufferfish, but it works, and it's super easy to get from any bait store, and also you can catch very big trout with it. That being said, greenbacks are also a very good option. You would have to go out with your own cast net and catch your own bait that way. But if you can get on some of those, the big trout especially love greenbacks. Whenever I'm using live bait, I like to use a 2-0 circle hook on about a 2-foot piece of 20-pound fluoro leader. But a lot of people also use something called a popping cork, which is just a bobber that has some beads on either end of it. And what you do is you pop with your rod, and it makes this sound, this loud clicking sound and vibration in the water that really attracts speckled trout. I haven't used it too often, but I've heard good things about it. As far as artificial, there's a lot of different varieties of lures that you could use. speckled trout are not too picky when it comes to this. Any lure that's made to look like a small bait fish or a shrimp will get bit by a speckled trout. My favorite way to fish for speckled trout is a topwater, and my favorite topwater to use is the Zara Spook Jr. in bone color. Trout will viciously go after topwaters, and it's just an exciting way to catch big trout. You could also use the Miradine Sheep Pup. I've caught some big trout on this also. It's another walk the dog lure. Another lure that kills the trout that looks like a little bait fish is the Miralure Miradine. If you're going out to catch numbers of trout, this would probably be your best bet. As far as different jigs I like to use the DOA Cal. That just seems to catch everything that swims inshore. I've also started using this new hyperlastic dart spin. It's a great lure. I've caught some pretty big trout on it the couple times I've used it. I'm excited to see what else I can catch on it. As far as shrimp lures, my favorite two are the DOA shrimp right here, or some gulp shrimp on about a 1/8 ounce jig head. So my favorite setup to use for these trout is my 2500 Shimano Sustain on a St. Croix 7-foot Avid inshore light action rod, and on there I have 10-pound braid. It's just a very fun setup to use. I know you guys heard me say this a bunch of times, but this is by far my favorite rod and reel setup. It's so much fun to use, and especially on these big trout, it's perfect. So that's gonna do it for today's episode of Just the Tips. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That would really mean a lot to me. If you want to see more videos like this, I'm going to be posting a new Just the Tips video every 2 weeks. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions or any tips you want to give yourself on this topic, please leave a comment down below. Let's all work together to become better fishermen, and I'll see you next time.